Okay, so imagine this for a second. You are at the absolute pinnacle of your career.
Mm-hmm.
You've just secured the win of the century. Your competition is crushed, position is secure, the numbers are all in your favor.
Right. By every objective metric, you've won.
Exactly. Market share, territory, you name it. But instead of, popping champagne or doing a victory lap, you're just sitting alone in a small room, wishing you were dead.
That's an incredibly heavy image to start with. It completely dismantles the usual LinkedIn version of winning, doesn't it?
It really does. And that is exactly where we find ourselves in today's deep dive. We're looking at a stack of sources that give us these two incredibly dramatic stories about fathers, power, and just sheer desperation.
And we should say what those are. We've got the lectionary readings for Tuesday, February 3, 2026.
Right, which includes a heavy narrative from 2 Samuel and a really chaotic scene from the Gospel of Mark.
And on top of that, we're layering in a reflection piece called Bold Faith and the Healing Presence of Christ.
And our mission here isn't just to, retell these stories. We really need to unpack a central tension in these texts.
Which is how victory and healing look vastly different depending on where you stand. Are you the king waiting at the gate? Or are you a desperate outcast hiding in a crowd?
It feels like we're dealing with two very different worlds. One is sort of a geopolitical thriller, and the other is a medical drama.
In a way, yeah. But the connective tissue, I think, is the interruption.
The interruption.
Yeah. In the Old Testament reading, a massive political victory is interrupted by personal tragedy. And then in the Gospel, a life or death rescue mission is interrupted by this quiet, desperate act of faith.
So let's start with that political thriller. So Samuel 18, this is the definition of high stakes. We are in the middle of a civil war.
Right, and King David is fighting his own son, Absalom, who has launched a coup.
You have to remember the context here. This isn't just a rebellion. It's a family feud that has engulfed an entire nation.
Exactly. David's been forced to flee his own capital. His army, led by his general Joab, is going out to fight. But as the troops are leaving, David gives this very specific, very public order.
What does he say?
He says, "Be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake."
Be gentle. That seems like a terrible military strategy when the guy on the other side is trying to kill you.
It's militarily absurd. It completely undermines the morale of every soldier marching out there. But it's paternally desperate. He wants to win the war, but he just cannot bear the thought of losing his son. He's trying to have it both ways.
But the battle itself, the text describes it almost like a horror movie. It says the battle took place in the forest of Ephraim, and the forest devoured more people that day than the sword.
What does that even mean?
It just paints a picture of pure chaos, broken terrain, pits, thick underbrush. It wasn't an open field. It was a confused skirmish in a dense wood.
And right in the middle of this chaos, we find Absalom. He's riding a mule, which, by the way, is a royal mount. It symbolizes his claim to the throne.
And he rides under the thick branches of a great terebinth tree. And this is where the text gets weirdly specific. It says his head got caught fast in the tree.
Yeah, traditionally people think it was his hair. Absalom was famous for his long, heavy hair. It was his vanity, his pride.
So his own vanity becomes his trap.
It seems that way. He's left hanging between heaven and earth while the mule just keeps running.
Wow. That is such a haunting image. Just suspended there, helpless, and then Joab shows up.
And Joab is the realist in this story. He's David's general, he's pragmatic, and he is ruthless. He heard David's order to be gentle, but he also knows that as long as Absalom is breathing, the civil war continues.
So he makes an executive decision.
He doesn't hesitate for a second. The text says Joab took 3 pikes in his hand.
Wait, 3?
3. It's incredibly violent. He thrusts them into the heart of Absalom while he is still alive in the tree.
Oh my gosh.
And just to be sure, 10 of Joab's armor-bearers surround Absalom and finish the job. It's a definitive, brutal end to the rebellion. Politically, this is the moment of absolute victory.
But the scene shifts immediately.
Right.
We cut away from that gory tree to King David. He's not on the battlefield.
No, he's sitting between the 2 gates of the city. He's completely removed from what just happened.
He's in an information vacuum.
Yeah.
He's just waiting for news. A lookout spots a runner coming alone. And David's logic is interesting here.
What does he say?
He says, if he is alone, he has good news.
Right, because if the army were retreating, it would be a chaotic crowd. A lone runner means a messenger with a victory report.
So the messenger arrives. He's a Cushite. And you can sense the disconnect immediately. He bursts in and says, "Let my lord the king receive the good news. The Lord has taken your part."
He thinks he's the hero. He's delivering the best possible news. You kept your throne. We won. The coup is over. He's expecting a reward.
But David doesn't ask about the battle. He doesn't ask about territory or casualties. He just asks one question.
His young Absalom safe.
And it just sucks the air right out of the room. The messenger realizes way too late that he has misread the entire situation. He tries to pivot to this poetic language.
He says, "May the enemies of my lord the king be as that young man." He can't even say it.
He can't bring himself to say he's dead. But David knows. And this is the breaking point. The text says the king was shaken. He goes up to the room over the gate and just breaks down.
And we have the transcript of his lament. It's so raw. "My son, Absalom, my son, Absalom, if only I had died instead of you."
He repeats, "my son," 5 times.
It completely flips the script on what victory means. The source even notes that victory was turned into mourning for the whole army.
Imagine being a soldier coming back, high-fiving your buddies because you survived, and then you hear the king just wailing.
It makes the victory feel totally hollow.
Yeah, it's like winning the championship but finding out your house burned down during the game.
And that connects to that psalm we have in the source stack, Psalm 86, "Incline your ear, O Lord, for I am afflicted and poor." David is the king. He's rich in power. He just won. But in this moment, he is utterly afflicted and poor in spirit.
He gained the world, but lost his child. Which is a perfect transition, actually, to our gospel reading.
Right. We move from a father who lost a child in 2 Samuel to a father who is desperately trying to save one in Mark 5.
So we meet Jairus. Now, he isn't a king, but he is a synagogue official.
Which is a position of significant status and respect. He's a man who's used to being in charge, to following rules.
But when we meet him, all that dignity is gone. The text says he fell at Jesus' feet.
Think about the social cost of that. A synagogue leader bowing to an itinerant rabbi. He's pleading, "My daughter is at the point of death."
The urgency is palpable. "Come lay your hands on her that she may get well and live." So Jesus goes with him, and this is where the tension just ratchets up. There's an obstacle.
The crowd, a large crowd, followed him and was pressing in on him. It's a mob scene, and hidden inside this mob is our second main character.
The woman with the hemorrhage. This is the story within a story. And honestly, if I'm Jairus, I'm panicking right now. Every second counts.
But the camera shifts to this woman, and her situation is outlined with just heartbreaking detail. She's been bleeding for 12 years.
12 years. And look at the resume of suffering the text gives us. She had suffered greatly at the hands of many doctors.
Which, frankly, sounds like a modern healthcare nightmare.
It does, it adds. Spent all that she had. And the kicker. She was not helped, but only grew worse.
So she's broke, she's physically exhausted, and because of the bleeding, she would have been considered ritually unclean.
Exactly, that's a crucial detail. Under the purity laws, she shouldn't even be in that crowd. If she touches anyone, she renders them unclean. She's a social outcast.
Which explains why she's so secretive. She doesn't ask for permission. She doesn't announce herself like Jairus did. She has this internal monologue.
"If I but touch his clothes, I shall be cured."
It's a grasp for the hem of a garment. It's a desperate physical act, but the result is instantaneous. Immediately, her flow of blood dried up. She felt it in her body.
Bam. Healed. Mission accomplished. She could have just slipped away.
Right. She probably intended to, but then Jesus stops. He stops the whole procession. He stops Jairus. And he asks, "Who touched my clothes?"
And the disciples' reaction here is genuinely funny. They're basically looking at him like he's crazy. "Jesus, look around. Everyone is touching you. It's a mosh pit."
But Jesus knows the difference between a shove and a touch of faith. He felt power go out. And the woman, the text says she approached in fear and trembling.
But why the fear? She just got healed. Shouldn't she be celebrating?
Because she thinks she stole a miracle. She touched a holy man while she was ritually unclean. She effectively polluted him according to the law. She could be in serious trouble.
Ah, okay.
So she falls down and tells him the whole truth.
And this is where the interaction pivots. What is Jesus' reaction?
He doesn't scold her. He doesn't lecture her on purity laws. He says, "Daughter." That is huge. It's the only time in the Gospels Jesus addresses a woman as daughter. Think about it. We have Jairus, the important official, waiting for his daughter to be saved. And here is this outcast, no father mentioned, no husband, no money, and Jesus claims her as family.
"Daughter, your faith has saved you." He's restoring her dignity, not just her body.
Precisely. The reflection source we have calls this restoring dignity, hope, and life. He made her visible again. If you'd just let her walk away healed, she'd be well, but still an outcast. By stopping, by outing her, he publicly restored her status.
That's beautiful.
Wow.
But I have to play the skeptic here. While this is all happening, the clock is ticking for Jairus.
It is. And this is where the story gets unbearable for him.
Right. While Jesus is still speaking to the woman, some men from Jairus' house show up, and they deliver the gut punch. Your daughter has died. Why trouble the teacher any longer?
This is the moment where faith meets facts. The facts say, it's over. Biology has won. Death is final.
I can only imagine Jairus thinking, if he hadn't stopped for that woman, if we hadn't had that conversation, we would have made it.
The interruption feels like the cause of the tragedy, but watch Jesus. He ignores the facts. The text says he disregarded the message. He turns to Jairus and says,
Do not be afraid, just have faith.
talk about a tall order. Your daughter is dead, but don't worry about it. It demands a complete suspension of reality. But Jairus stays with him. They go to the house.
And the scene there is chaos. Weeping, wailing, professional mourners.
And Jesus walks in and says, why this commotion? The child is not dead, but asleep. And the crowd, who are just crying, start laughing at him. They ridiculed him.
That switch from weeping to ridicule tells you everything. They know what death looks like.
To them, his claim is insane. So what does he do? He kicks them all out.
Clears the room.
He puts out the noise, the cynicism, the ridicule. He creates a space of silence. He takes only the parents and his inner circle, Peter, James, and John.
And this is the climax. He takes the girl's hand, and he speaks Aramaic. The source preserves the exact words.
Talitha cum.
Which means,
Little girl, I say to you, arise. It's so intimate, it's gentle, it's a wake-up call to a sleeping child.
and she gets up immediately. And she walks around. The source notes she's 12 years old.
And did you catch that parallel?
Get 12 years.
Exactly. The woman had been bleeding for 12 years, a life of suffering. The girl had been alive for 12 years, a life cut short. Their timelines intersect at the feet of Jesus. Both are daughters. Both are restored.
And I love the practical detail at the end. After this mind-blowing miracle, raising the dead, Jesus just says she should be given something to eat.
It's so grounding. It shows he isn't just about the spiritual spectacle. He cares about the physical reality. She's alive. She's probably hungry. Get the kid a sandwich.
It brings the supernatural right back down to the dinner table.
Yeah.
So let's zoom out. We have David's tragedy and Jairus' triumph. We have Psalm 30 saying, I will praise you, O Lord, for you have rescued me.
And that psalm fits the women in the gospel perfectly. They were rescued. But for David, that's harder to square. He wasn't rescued from his grief. God saved his kingdom, sure, but he didn't save his son.
That's a tough tension to sit with. Why does Jairus get his daughter back, but David loses his son? The text doesn't really explain that, does it?
No, it doesn't give us a tidy why. The Bible is remarkably honest about that. But the texts do show us how to respond. David brings his raw, unfiltered grief to God, and the women bring their raw, unfiltered desperation to Jesus.
The reflection source Bold Faith talks about this. It says, faith draws the healing power of Jesus into the deepest wounds. So the common denominator isn't the outcome, but the posture of trust.
Right, and it asks us a specific question. Where in my life do I need to approach Jesus with bold faith today and entrust him with a concrete worry or need?
That's the question to do something. It's asking us to stop being the crowd that just bumps into Jesus by accident and start being the woman who reaches out with intent.
Or to be Jairus, who keeps walking with Jesus even after the bad news arrives. That's the hardest part. When the report comes back, it's too late, it's over. That is precisely when the command, do not be afraid, just have faith, kicks in.
It's interesting to think about that interruption again, because if the woman hadn't stopped Jesus,
They might have arrived before the girl died.
right, it would have been a standard heal the sick miracle. Impressive, but standard.
But because of the delay, because of the interruption, the situation got worse. It went from sickness to death, and that required a greater miracle. It required a resurrection.
So the delay wasn't a denial. It was a setup for something bigger.
That's a powerful way to look at it. The woman's interruption, which felt like a disaster for Jairus, was actually a moment of grace. It allowed him to see that Jesus has authority even over death.
It really makes you rethink the interruptions in your own life.
Yeah.
You know, when you get stuck in traffic or a meeting goes long, we usually just get annoyed.
But these sources suggest those interruptions might be where the real story's happening. David's victory was interrupted by grief. Jairus' mission was interrupted by the woman.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, today?
I think it means we need to be honest about where we are. Are you like David, sitting in the victory tower but feeling defeated? If so, it's okay to weep. It's okay to cry out. The Bible validates that.
And if you're like the woman,
If you've been suffering for 12 years, a long time, and you've spent all your energy. Maybe it's time to stop looking for doctors and start looking for the hem of the garment.
And if you're Jairus,
If you've just received the worst news possible, listen for that voice that says, do not be afraid, and maybe, just maybe, expect that Talitha Kum moment.
little girl, arise. The contrast between the 3 pikes in Absalom's heart versus the hand of Jesus holding the little girls, the violence versus the tenderness.
The way of Joab is efficiency and violence. It solves the problem by killing it. The way of Jesus is interruption and restoration. One ends in death, the other ends in a request for a sandwich.
I'm definitely on Team Sandwich.
Bert, we all.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with that final thought from the source materials prayer. Lord Jesus, strengthen my faith when I am afraid. It's a simple prayer, but based on what we've read, it's a dangerous one.
Because answering it might involve walking past the mourners who are laughing at you.
It might involve ignoring the facts from the messengers. And it definitely involves trusting that the interruptions are part of the plan.
Absolutely.
So take a look at your own life this week. Where are you bleeding? Where are you grieving? And are you willing to reach out, even if your hands are shaking? That's the question. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.